In this video, we'll have a look at the clone instance option inside of 3D-Coat and use the images we generate from that in order to explore design variations on this character using AI. So you can see here on the right hand side in the sculpt tree that I have all my layers which make up this character, and they're all interchangeable, so I can swap out shoes, for example, trousers, etc. And they are all underneath this parent here called Dad. What I want to do now is I want to clone this actual top level hierarchy or item called Dad. So let's just collapse that, right click and go to clone, which is down here, and clone an instance. Now immediately you can see it's created an instance underneath the original hierarchy. I can collapse that one down and you can see it's given me a little arrow here. So if I move this arrow now over, you can see now I've got an instance of that object. So what I'll do now is I'll just go to my top view and I'll use this guide here and I will rotate this around 90 degrees. Now if you want to be more accurate with this, click on this little icon here on the gizmo and hit the space bar, and I'm going to say negative 90 degrees, which will rotate it facing the other character. Let's now snap back to our front view, just bring that character back down, and then I'm going to just move him into position here. So let's do the same again now, and I'll create a back view of him. So again, I could do either one. So I can just go back to the original if I like, right click, clone, instance, and move this new instance over here. Let's go back down. Let's go back to our top view, click, hold down, and let's say 180 degrees. Let's get back to our Z axis down here so we can see, and we can see we've got our turnaround. Now at this point, let's collapse these down and we can just move these around a little bit and make sure that we're optimizing our space. And depending on the designs that we come up with, we may need to give a little bit more space in between, just in case we have more elaborate clothing items which take up a little bit more of the space on here. So there you can see that we've now created those instances. So let me go back to the original one here, and I'll go to where it says head. Let's zoom in on that. I'm going to use the move tool on this one, and let's just move over a little bit closer, and let's just change the ears on this object here, and we can see that the ears are changing on all of these characters. And there's our instance. There are 3 turnaround views instance of our character that remains fully editable in each of those instances. So here I am now in the render room, and I have a setting of a square 1024 by 1024 render area here, and I've created a light which you can see here. If I hit the real-time render on here, then if I change the color of this light over to maybe this red one, you can see that it updates the color in the render. However, I don't want to have a red light. I just want to have a nice rim light on the character just to make him pop off the background a little bit more, and so I'll just cancel that one. Okay, so everything's set for my render. The light is an optional step. You don't really need that. So I'm going to go over, and now I'm just going to render this image out as a PNG with a transparent background. Here are my render settings. So I'm not having any shadows on here, and I'm going to make sure I store the alpha channel because I want this on a transparency. And there you can see 1024 by 1024 render size. So let's export that by clicking on render. So here I am inside of my painting program, which happens to be Photoshop. It can be any program. And the reason we had 3D-Coat export with a transparency is just purely because I can now just change this on the fly. Or let's just try with a solid background. Now we could have done this inside of 3D-Coat and we could have exported this with a black background, but this just gives us that little bit of flexibility. If we're getting poor results with the AI, we can always come in and see if this is the issue, the black background. I use Leonardo.ai for my AI work. You can see here that I've loaded the original image that we output into Leonardo, and I've given it this prompt. And if we start right at the beginning, I started off with a biker outfit for the character and then changed it over to this Bermuda one. And here I made him into a WWF type wrestler. However, I didn't quite like the boots that it gave me, so I tried to reprompt that one with these golden boots. This is easy to bring these both into Photoshop and just change those out. And here we can see a superhero and a superhero costume rather, and then I modified this costume and then I gave him this this mask here as well. So I've taken those images now that we had inside of Leonardo and I've brought them back into Photoshop. We can see our original output here that's got that original transparent background on there. I'll just put the black over the top of this and we can see these costumes. And we can see that they line up pretty nicely. If we were to draw a line across here, using the ruler, for example, across the wrists and across the top of the green jumper that he's got on here, and we can see that those are lining up very nicely with the new design. So we're getting a fairly accurate turnaround and brand new clothing designs over the top. Even on this one, you can see if I zoom in, it's even tried to create a wireframe over the top of it, which is a little bit of an overkill, but interesting nevertheless that it's done a fairly good job. If that was real geometry, it isn't too bad because you can see it's tried to create accurate geometry there over the knees. And this isn't too bad either, the way that it's going. But this is just, it's not real. It's not a real wireframe, but it is very interesting how it's tried to think about the wireframe mesh that this model will be made of. And obviously it isn't even a wireframe. This is an actual sculpt. So we're not at this poly resolution on the actual object. Let's zoom out again. The quality does deteriorate a little bit on this one, but I've got the boots were all that I really needed on this one actually. Let's zoom out a little bit more and we can go over to that superhero costume, and then we have and that is a really nice design there for the actual mask, if we will, for the costume. And this final one up here was another motorbike one, and this one was done in Copilot rather than Leonardo. And we can see, if I just remove the rest of those, we can see it did a great job as well on there. So that's a good way for you to experiment with an existing character design that you may have. You can go ahead and create these instances and create a nice turnaround for your character, and then use an AI application to just cycle your way through some varying costume designs for your character. Take this image back into 3D-Coat and start to model these clothing items or sculpt them, whichever one you want to do. So it's a very useful way to help you with character design. So I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you in the next video.